Hey everybody, this is Perch. First of all, I've mentioned this before. When I go on social media, I hear, what is it? Zach said some point recently. I remember he was doing a video and he said that people who go to social media will say like, I only spend 10 minutes on social media, then it's not much of my time. But the reality is, for me, that is true. When you see me on Twitter, what you should know that what is going on in my life in that moment is I am waiting on something. I'm in online. I'm waiting for food that I ordered. I'm at some place where I feel trapped. I have nothing better to do than to go on Twitter and largely shitpost. To be completely frank about it, I am not a genius writer or conveyor of information on Twitter. Twitter is a garbage platform, and so I give it what it is. If there's this guy, Exalted Speed, I've mentioned him before, like he writes really thoughtful posts. A lot of people do. Colleen Doran is own like really, really thoughtful threads of really kind of cool stuff, interesting to think about. I'm not that. If you're looking for intelligence, that's not where you go. Arguably, you don't come to YouTube for intelligence from me either, but definitely not Twitter. Twitter is the equivalent of me driving down the road, speaking my mind, except in this case, it's worse because I'm trapped. So I'll post sarcastic things. And every now and then people will come in and want to take a swing at it. I recently posted, let's see, I put a picture from Fire and Ice, and I said, nobody is reading and enjoying this Fire and Ice comic. Obviously, I'm sure somebody is, but nobody is. By the way, Fire and Ice got a bunch of awards for like being a great comic. This is a terrible comic, but hey, there's something for everybody. Anyway, I said, you can't read this comic and go, wow, this is really going to bring in new readers. You could go, wow, this comic sucks so much ass that people will hate by it or claim to love it so you can bully actual fans. But that's it. Now, if you read, and I posted a little screenshot of Fire talking about boobs. And now if you read this, hopefully you go, this isn't a real, thoughtful, insightful comment. Because it's not. It's not. The creator of Fire and Ice can come to me and say, how dare you? And I'm like, I'm just shitposting here. And I would have no problem saying that because that's what it is. This isn't a genius comment. That said, it is a terrible, terrible comic book, but whatever. But every now and then somebody comes in, like this one guy comes in and goes, I'm sorry you can't enjoy things. And I respond, I deeply appreciate your heartfelt and genuine desire for an improvement in my quality of life. You're a gift to those around you. The person, I think, is trying to out-sarcasm me. But that is a bad idea. Remember, I am responding to these posts and I'm engaging while I'm waiting in line for food. So that is the part of my life you're getting, a nothing, worthless part of time. But anyway, this thing goes on for a while, and I stop responding, not because I'm bored or not because I, don't know what to answer, but because, the line is over and I moved on with my life and I'm doing something else. But other people got into it. And so this who's trying to out-troll each other thing continues. And this is what the purpose of this video is this guy who's trying to be, snarky internet commentator about comics. The other person is like, gee whiz, do you not like comics? I don't understand. That type of, we've all seen these people. These people are disingenuous and annoying to deal with. But he posted something that was worth talking about in this video. And he says, I'm assuming it's I don't know or care. It says the person is arguing about with somebody about if mainstream is generating comics or not. And somebody is saying, hey, if Marvel and DC folded, comics shops would largely go away. Comics would be hurting. And the guy responding says, what does that even mean, though? Why would Image or Dark Horse drop any of their comics when suddenly a larger piece of the pie opens up without Marvel or DC? And so that's the important comment worth talking about because there's an actual question in there. Now, here's where some business logic applies. And the way I basically put this, because frequently I see people going out of their way to say things like Marvel and DC should die or burn or seem to enjoy the idea of those companies going away. And they don't realize that if those companies go away, it would seriously hurt comics as a whole, independents, everyone. Because there's a fallacy in what that comment was that, hey, if Marvel and DC went away, why wouldn't Dark Horse or Image jump for that pie? Well, the reason is that pie wouldn't exist anymore. The pie would shrink dramatically. So, giving it to you in very rough numbers, if Marvel is about 30% of the market, DC is about 25% of the market, it's usually a little bit more than that, but if that's where they are, you're talking about 50 to 60% of the market is owned, basically wrapped up with two companies. And then you have Image, which is the next big block, and then you have Dark Horse, and you have Boom, and you have Aftershock, and you have Black Mask, and you have Mad Cave, and you have Scout, and you have on and on it goes, right? Dynamite. We love those covers, Nick. Anyway, you have all these other companies there. And the challenge is, if Marvel and DC went away, it's not like comic customers would go into a shop and go, hey, I'm here to buy the latest Marvel book. What? Marvel doesn't exist anymore. Well, fuck, I've got $50 here that I was going to buy in comics. I guess I'll buy more Dark Horse. It wouldn't work that way. People would buy less. The entire market would contract. That, 60% that is Marvel or DC would not automatically convert into an indie sale. It would convert into a Starbucks sale or a book sale or a movie sale or heroin or whatever the kids are into these days. It would convert into something other than comics. I don't doubt, by the way, the customer coming in who's ready to spend $20 on comics and suddenly discovers that Marvel and DC no longer exist would take the $2 they were going to spend or $4 they were going to spend on an indie book and say, well, I'll buy an extra indie book. They might, instead of spending $20, spend $8. So if you think $20, $4 that is going to an indie title, $16 that is going to Marvel and DC. Suddenly there is no Marvel and DC. That comic customer is not suddenly going to spend that extra $16 on indie books. They might buy one indie book or two indie books, but you're talking about going from $4 to $8 or $12, not $20. And when all is said and done, this causes a massive contraction to the market. The challenge is, if you look at any industry, not just comics, anything where you have a majority stakeholder, if that majority stakeholder goes away, the market shrinks. The money doesn't move. And so this is a big danger where we are with comics right now. And this is why rooting against Marvel and DC is a bad idea for all of us, because let's say you're Nick, right? You own Dynamite. And you would love to, basically get to be as big as Marvel or DC. Praying for Marvel or DC to disappear tomorrow is bad for you, because the odds are, over time, your money is going to shrink rather than grow. Because today, a lot of people go to the comic shop in order to buy Marvel or DC. They don't go to buy Boom. They don't go to buy Dynamite or Image or any of these other companies. Wish they did. But typically, the majority, and take it from a guy who ran a shop for 25 years, people come into the shop looking for Marvel or DC. And then what happens is they start to branch out, usually because the creator they like has gone independent. It's like, I like Rick Remender. I was really liking his X-Force run. Now suddenly Rick Remender is, over there doing something with Image. I will pick up his Image book because I like Rick Remender. And by the way, people will do this, for writers, they really do it for artists. So this is where, if a Joe Mad decides to leave Marvel and go do something for Image, then people follow that artist over and buy that book. But as we've seen from, you could look at it, the numbers, you can look at it as how companies have grown or shrank or whatever. Typically, they will go over for that artist, buy that artist's book, and then over time stop buying the comics completely. They don't get loyalty to this new company. They have loyalty to the creator who went over and did this. And this is a flaw in the indie market, because when whoever it happens to be, Joe Mad, J. Scott Campbell, I don't know, whoever goes over and starts doing this work, they typically promote the comic book, not the company. So what happens is, the comic gets attention and gets everything else. Was it Tokyo Ghost that Sean Murphy did with Remender? People followed that because they like Sean Murphy or they like Rick Remender, and they will go and they will do that. They will go into that comic, but they don't start getting a loyalty to Image. And traditionally, the indie comic companies have done an extremely poor job of getting people who come over because they're following a creator to buy other books in their line. So all this is to say, the creator then eventually finishes that series. So take Tokyo Ghost again. When that series is over, people stop buying Image. They go back to Marvel and DC and they look for something else. Very rarely do they start buying other things from that independent company. And by the way, anyone will tell you this. It's elsewhere in that thread, the guy was saying something along the lines of, The Walking Dead is what brought everybody back to comic shops in the mid-2000s. That's not true at all. The Walking Dead did well. You can actually see the sales analysis charts on this very channel. And it's amazing what Kirkman did and building that franchise and everything else. But The Walking Dead did not translate to a lot of Image other titles. It just didn't. You can look at the numbers through that entire period. You did not see other Image books benefiting at a significant amount. Now, some did. Some people definitely got excited about Image and bought some other Image books, but not many. You did not see even a 1 to 10 crossover of Walking Dead purchasers to other Image books. A lot of those numbers stayed flat, including the originals, by the way. Spawn, Savage Dragon stayed flat during the Walking Dead success. It did not benefit. And it makes sense. Image isn't a shared universe. Dark Horse isn't either. None of these places are. So it makes sense that you do not get, these when somebody follows a creator over to an independent book, it doesn't automatically mean success to an indie comic company. Again, this isn't my opinion. This is actually a objective fact if you look at the sales and the numbers. And this is a problem that any indie company needs to deal with. If you're not Marvel or DC, you've got to figure out how to get your successes to translate to other books. And when you're a creator-owned company, there's not a lot of incentive for the creators to do this. So anyway, it's a problem to solve. But if you're rooting for Marvel or DC to go away, understand you're rooting for comics by and large to go away, because they're not gonna move. So anyway, something to think about. And I just troll on Twitter half the time. I mean, I'm just telling you, you could come and jump in the ring with me and do whatever you want to do, but it doesn't really change the fact that I'm still screwing with you. Anyway, thanks for listening.